Hey, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Yesterday, we were trying to talk about a couple of commands, by the way, and even before to that, we talked about how do we actually, create a server in AWS, right? So we in AWS, we are using North Virginia region, and you understood that why you are using North Virginia region, because the AMI which I'm giving is only available in North Virginia region. So that's what you have. And the next one is the next one, uh, yeah. So the next one, what we talked about, how to create a server. So if you are using Windows, I mean, you can use a software called as Putty, or if you are already aware of any other software, you're free to use that. Okay. It's not like only Putty that you should be using it. Okay. So that is what we have. And the next is, and the next one is, if it is Mac OS, so then you're going to use a inbuilt terminal that you are having, to install any third-party software. Okay, that is what we have seen. And also, we are going to create a EC2 machine. And while you choose the EC2 machine, you're going to choose our AMI and you launch a machine. And what you're going to get, you're going to get a public IP, and you're going to take the public IP and use that particular IP to connect to that particular server from Putty or macOS. What is a public IP? What is a private IP? Further upcoming topics. Don't bother about that. And from this, we started learning some administrative commands. The couple of commands that we have learned over there yesterday is one is PS command. PS is a command that we are going to get all the information. Maybe PS hyphen is the more information you will get it. Now there's a kill command that we used to kill a particular process. Now after that, we try to kill some process which is not owned by us, some other root user or something like that. And that's where, okay, so you need to take the privilege. You will be usually having an administrative privileges being a DevOps engineer. So generally you should be having a privilege, and this privilege, to gain the privilege, there's a privilege escalation tools. Being a normal user, now you logged in as a normal user, but still you need to perform admin activities. So how do you do that? In Windows also you have that option. Maybe right click, run as administrator, you will see, correct? So sometimes you need to run this Windows, right click, run as Windows, run as administrator, run as administrator. So this is what you do actually if you want to run the things as administrator, right? This option, if you really want to become run. So here it is going to be sudo command line writes sudo. That's it. So until here we have discussed in yesterday's session, and we're going to continue further for today. Okay, for this I need a machine. Yesterday's machine I terminated it. I'll go to here and I'll launch an instance. And so here, what we're going to do, DevOps hyphen practice. One minute. Yeah. So DevOps practice and community AMIs. Now we are using RHEL9. So we'll use RHEL9. Select. And that's it. I mean, even you keep here also, you can just choose it is not needed. Otherwise, even if you launch also, it will pop up. Okay, let's say you don't give this, that's fine. Then it will pop up that, choose a key pair. You say that I don't want it. All right, so this is what we have. And if you click on this particular instance, you will see a public IP. So let it come to running and give it a minute to boot and all. So then we'll be able to connect to that. So in the meantime, let's go with the killer Coda and administration. So I think the machine should be up by this time. So let's copy the IP address. And since I'm using a Mac OS, I'll use terminal and I'll type a command. If you are using PuTTY, by the way, so then you just simply open the window and paste the IP address. Then it will ask for the username, and then you enter EC2-user and the password. Okay, so here I'm able to log in, and here is the one. Now we are going to start with something called as a package management. So package management is a very key activity. Okay, so for most of the time, by the way, so because we need to run software. Okay, so while you take a bare minimum machines, the softwares will not come, by the way. You need to install them, you need to configure them. That's your job. To run your application, you need to do some n number of things in the operating system. Okay, out of that, the package management is one of that. So because we are going to install the software, so then only you can run the application. So your job is all about running some software, right? So deploy some software, run some software, and for that actually you need to install some packages. Okay, so that is how it is, and that is where so here package management is one of the very, very, very much key activity that we have in your role, by the way. So for this, you're going to execute some bunch of commands, and especially in the Red Hat family, this software is called as RPMs. Is called as RPM, Red Hat Package Manager. Okay, in Red Hat OS and its family like CentOS or Red Hat directly, we are using Red Hat anyhow. So the RPM is the one which we are going to use. It Red Hat Package Manager is their own extension. Like Windows have MSI. Windows is having MSI, Microsoft Installer, MSI. Microsoft Installer is the native packaging from Windows. But whereas EXE is a third party, okay, which works even in Windows and even some other operating systems as well. Okay, so EXE is a very generic thing, or is another one. So, but actually the packaging will comes as MSI. And now, now Red Hat coming is with this RPM. Okay, and now if you want to install the packages, by the way, okay, so first of all, okay, we need to, I mean, basically like, we can install the packages, but first of all, let's go with how do you find the packages which are installed on your system, maybe. Okay, so that's where sudo dnf is a command, okay, which we use to, which we have to do the package manager, and also just giving some history, by the way. So now maybe some people know this particular, sorry, the history, but let me just explain the changes of the Red Hat related to the package management. So in the package manager, the package manager section, so we are going to okay, in the package manager section, so we are going to, our Red Hat is actually starting from 2.1, I told, right? So 2.1 is there, 3 version is there, or at least 2.1 is a kind of a stable version. That's why we call it as 2.1, or let's keep it as a generic, by the way, 2 only. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 version is there. Okay. So now until they, I mean, by the time 2, by the way, RPM, okay, so we used to install the package management with RPM command. We used to directly deal with something called as RPM. 3 also RPM. Okay. So 4 also RPM. And now 4.8 actually came in. So which is actually they introduced something called as YUM. Okay. So from there, the new package manager came into the picture from themselves, which is YUM. And then it is YUM. Okay. And then again it was YUM, and again it was YUM, and it was, now they introduced something called as DNF. Now it is DNF. So this is how, okay, so they themselves actually came up with different versions of package managers, because the software industry is evolving and the options, limited options, whatever they have at that point of time, they need some fine tuning, and they just came with this. Okay. So if someone is interested, by the way, so you probably read the history and what all the changes they really cooked in and things like that. But right now is DNF. We'll be going with DNF. Okay. So here, now I'll go with the DNF list, and you give installed. These are the two different options, or two inputs that you need to provide, list, and after that installed. Then it is going to give us the packages which are installed in your system. Okay. So these are the packages which are installed in our system. All right. So that's one. And whereas you're getting very big list, by the way, right? So the list of packages and its version and is actually installed, by the way, and from which source it is installed is telling. Okay. Whereas the packages which are also there for available for install, available, if you give it, now the packages which are available for you to install also, it is telling you. The packages which are installed is showing you the list. Maybe you go to the Windows also. I don't remember the exact word, but somewhere you'll find out the list of softwares which is installed, and somewhere in the control panel. Okay, you will find it out the information, right? So the installed one. So here it is a command, list installed. Now here, this guy is actually going to help you in even the packages which are available to install also. Okay, now it is going to show you a very long list that, so what are the packages? List available only, list available. Yeah. So now it is going to, give the list of packages which are available to install. Whereas I don't want the list are available, by the way. So I simply need both the things, installed as well as available. Simply go with the DNF list. DNF list is going to show you the packages which are installed plus which are available for install as well. But how do you categorize that? Or how do you know that whether this package is installed or available to install? How do you differentiate that? Okay, for an example, if I go and you pipe for maybe a zip thing. Okay, so zip is actually giving something here. Okay, now it is telling that, so you're getting the output, by the way. So how do you know that whether the package is installed or not installed? Now the third column will help you. So the third column, which is coming with the @ symbol. Okay, @ symbol, then it is going to consider as, installed. If @ symbol is there, you see this @ After that, it could be anything, does not really matter. If @ is there, then it is already installed. But if @ is not there, then it is not installed. So this is how you can determine. If you just go and give DNF list and grep for the package where it is showing you the available one plus installed one, then how do you categorize? Is basically this is the method. Okay, so that is how it is going to be. Now, if I want to install any package, okay, then what is the command? So DNF install. So some package name I'm picking it up, sudo DNF install nginx. Some package name does not really matter, just some package name out of that very big list, whatever you got it. Now, what it is doing is it installing this package, and along with that, it is actually installing its supported packages also. It needed some more dependencies. The total it is installing 4 packages. Okay, so this is what it is. Now I'll be just going, if I press Y, it will install. If I just Q no, it will not install. Y means install, no means no install, simple. But you don't want this SR no's and all, like RM command also we're talking about. We don't want SR no, some option we're giving. Here also you have an option -y if you give, so that Y it will take up automatically. So DNF install nginx -y, I mean, it will install automatically. So this is how you install. And the same way, when you actually go with the remove, it is going to remove the package and its dependency packages. And sometimes a package update is available, by the way. How can you update a package is DNF update and the package name. But if you don't give a package name, it will update the whole system. Okay, so sudo DNF update. If I give this, I'm not giving -y, it will not proceed, but it is telling the total 42 packages are available to update. It is going to update them. I'm just going to give no. Okay, or else if you want to update one package, for an example, so here libcurl is there, I'm going to give this, so -y, it is going to just update one package only. It just upgrading to the latest version, and it is cleaning up the older version, and its verifications also it is doing. Clean up and upgrade. It's doing everything there. All right, so that is how they're actually telling. So this is not an ending. So because, however, you need to wonder that where is this package coming from? You see this, it's actually telling I'm downloading. Now where it is getting downloaded from. Okay, so if you wonder where is it coming from, so then we need to know that, it is coming from the locations which is defined in the systems. And where is that location? So however, if you wondered where the DNF is managing the installation in the sense like, where is it downloading and all, you can see that it's downloading the package and installing it. Where is it downloading from? So there is a location which is available as etc.m.repos.d /ls/etc.m.repos.d, and you'll find out lot of .repo files, and those repo files will have the information where the package need to be downloaded from. Okay, and these packages will be offered by vendors. Okay, now, okay, vendors, by the way, these URLs and all will be offered by vendors. For an example, MongoDB is one of the well-known software, by the way. MongoDB install. Okay, so if I just go with the MongoDB install, they'll tell you, okay, install MongoDB Community Edition, install on Linux, install on Red Hat. Then you're going to get an option. So they're going to tell you that, hey, you need to configure etc.m.repos.d, one repo file you create, it is telling. And inside that, you keep this content is what they're telling. Okay, so then you will have a MongoDB software installed. The vendors will offer. Okay, so here whatever you see is the basic Red Hat related ones is what you're having. Okay, so let's do that exercise, by the way. So here, for an example, if I wanted to download some repo, okay, so even before that, DNF list, sudo DNF list, pipe grep for Jenkins. Let's see, you have a Jenkins package. You don't have a Jenkins package. Jenkins is a well-known software. DNF install Jenkins will not work. Because system doesn't have a clue that where is this Jenkins is from. So the information which is holding in the repo files, it doesn't know about that. So that's where let's try to download a repo file. So now what we are doing, curl a URL and downloading to this location. Enter. Now if you do that, so now you got a repo file. So now if we just go and give DNF list library for Jenkins, now you're going to find out the information that there is a Jenkins package is coming in. Okay, that's it. Because you created this repo file. Okay, this repo file is telling the URL where is actually available from. Now you can go and give sudo dnf install Jenkins, it will work. That's how it is going to be. So if you are actually dealing with any softwares, vendors will be there and those vendors will offer the repo files and you need to get them and run them. Okay, so this is how we are going to get the things. And sometimes any vendor is not giving any repo file. If they're simply giving an RPM, so you can also give DNF install and that particular package also will do the job. For an example, so Jenkins, I have a direct URL option also. If I hit enter, now the Jenkins can be installed even with the direct RPM. It downloads the RPM and install it. You don't have a repo file also. It all depends upon how people are giving it. Okay, so just anyhow, it's not installing this for other reasons. You can ignore that. But this is what it is. These are the different scenarios we'll be doing. Now, this is a very important one. So just understand. So DNF list to find out the list of packages and DNF install to install. Okay. Most of the time we go with the installs and some rare cases you require an update as well. Okay. This also will do with automation or later the things will change, which is fine. Now, all the DNF is actually referring a repo files, which is available in etc/. Okay, this location you must and should remember m.repos.d. This is a system location. Where is it actually storing the things? Okay. And so if any new software that you need to install, by the way, so the vendor may offer repo file and you have to take the repo file and keep it over here. And that's how you're dealing. All right. So that's something about the package management. Any questions?
Yeah, Raghu, you are using -5 in some commands. Can I know meaning for -5?
So y is an answer, by the way. So every time, by the way, DNF is going to ask you in between yes or no, like this. You don't want to be asked yes or no. You want to give S as a default answer -y.
Okay.
Anyone? Any other questions?
Yeah, hi Raghu.
Yeah.
Actually, in few production systems, they are blocking this internet. So any other way we can find for a dependency link or
The URL will be intranet. That's it.
okay.
If you should be having a local somewhere. I mean, company will be keeping it, right?
Okay.
It will be here. You are using internet. And that becomes intranet. That's
Okay. Actually, we don't have access to that, and they are mentioning like it's up to you. Like, how do you do? So that's why I'm asking.
no. Don't look at the. I mean, to say like So in your case, is a process problem, right?
Correct. Yeah, just asking like, is there any other way?
The only way, right? So you should provide the URL.
Okay.
If it's a public one, public URL. It's not a public one, agree, but there'll be a private URLs.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
I have a quick question. Just curious, you may not answer it, but what does sudo stands for? SUDO.
Super user do.
Software user.
Doing as a super user do.
Oh, super. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So Raghu, this is Karan. So if we want to install this software or package in a multiple systems like 100 systems or some bulk number of systems, are there any automation tools you use
You had to write automation.
or by using the scripting, you mean, right?
Sorry,
By using any scripting language or any
could be anything. Solution is automation. Now, automation, if you choose it, like it could be any, I mean, there are many automation tools, and which is the right one for your requirement, you'll be picking it. In our case, we have shell script, Python script, Ansible for the operating systems. So at least in our syllabus, you consider. But Python we specifically use for application automation, considering the OS native, by the way. So shell and Ansible is what we have in the syllabus. Maybe considering those particular two things, and that doesn't mean only these two things. There are a number of things out there. Okay.
So that option is not included in the Amazon, right?
That option is not
available in the Amazon. I mean that console.
That's what I'm again telling. I'm repeating, by the way. Okay. So you want to do automation. Now you want to do the automation. There are n number of solutions. Okay. So there are n number, like you can put like n number only. Out of that, shell is one, scripting is one, Ansible is one, and whatever you're talking, Amazon is also another one. In our syllabus, converting that into a syllabus. Okay. What do we have right now in our plate, by the way? In our roadmap is shell scripting and Ansible for this requirement.
Okay.
Oh, Raghu, I am also getting the error, the transaction test. Try to do the,
It's the fourth time I'm repeating, don't do the things while the session goes on. Okay.
okay.
You will miss the details.
Right.
So just please focus only on the screen, by the way. So don't do anything.
Okay.
I would suggest if you are using mobile, by the way, so throw it in another room and come to the session.
Thank you.
That's what I would suggest. So please,
Right.
this is only the important thing will help you. Like it's not about who is teaching. It's all about yours only. So please ensure that we follow the best practices and yeah, that's fine. I'm just
Thank you.
So ensure you always focus on the things. You have any gap, please raise your voice. Okay. So ensure you are going out of this, out of the session as like you watched a movie and you understand completely, right? Logically, you understand. So movie also, someone is presenting in such a way that they should start there, they should end there, something like that. They're logically connecting it. Now, if you are sleeping for half an hour and coming back again, you will not understand. While you're talking on phone something, you will not understand that movie. Some bit you are missed, right? So that's where you'll miss the details, by the way. So here are technical details. One small word also will cause a lot of gap, by the way. Please ensure you don't, again, I think I called out a couple of times, but again, once again, for everyone, please ensure you don't do the things while the session goes on. Okay.
Hi, Raghu.
Yeah.
Do we have to use sudo every time for doing any kind of DNF operations?
Otherwise, you are going to get an error. So these are all activities you are doing. So it is telling that, please run with the super user privileges.
Okay. And I have a question from yesterday's class. Like it's my thing, like I tried to connect Linux with the instance in my terminal. I don't know, for some reason it's not getting connecting. Where am I missing? I didn't understand.
Yeah. So there's a lab session which is given to you, right? So there's a link which is there and the timings. Over here, there's a lab session link. Please join there in this timing. And it will help you. Actually, I wrote it as 10 p.m. yesterday. I realized someone asking. It's only till 9.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Raghu. So you said that you are using Ansible also as a scripting language or it's a tool?
Don't go there.
Okay.
Don't go there, please. That's fine.
Right. Thank you.
We'll anyhow naturally go there. Okay.
Yeah.
So and also, is also like, so if you want to be successful, by the way, certain methods are very important as well. And I can share one of my experience who guided me, and I always try to guide whoever, whoever missed that particular guidance generally. So what is, okay, so we will see Okay, you will see this particular one in many movies also. I'm not sure how consciously you watch English dramas and all, like generally, like some movies, but you will see this particular phrase used in many movies. We'll see whenever, we see when we cross the bridge. Okay, so it's a very common thing. Okay, which we follow, by the way. Okay, this is one of the method. At least, I mean, it elevated, or I mean to say, like, so it shaped my thought process very differently after understanding what is this, by the way. Okay, so I mean, the simple point is now 1,000 miles away that so some bridge has been broken, and if you're simply sitting here so thinking that bridge has been broken, now you can't even move 1 mile as well, right? So that is the whole point, by the way. So in software industry, especially if you're thinking about futuristic problems and you're actually not doing it today, it's a very big problem, by the way. And whatever you have to deal with today, you have to deal with today only. You should deal with that. Okay, so but you're simply worrying about everything out there. Okay, like a lot of people actually get onto a failure especially in the learning world also. They'll always think about dreaming about so get a fancy job, forgetting about today what they have to keep the effort, by the way. Every day they'll talk about so I want to get a job, but to get a job, by the way, you have to do 10 things. Those 10 things no one bother about it. There's a simple reason of the mindset that people are actually failing, especially my observation. Okay, always think about the long goal. We'll definitely go there. Okay, on a day that you need to face an interview, you will face the interview. That's it. Okay, so just thinking about that worry and so crying today, no one will help us. Now coming back to the same point, I just went on other side. Okay, but let's come back to this. In the learning also is very important, by the way. There are 1,000 things which will come in. You open a textbook, by the way. Let's say you go to academic, you have a textbook. Maybe you have 10 different chapters. If you always look at the 10th chapter and you're missing 9th chapter, 10th chapter, you don't get the detail properly. You have to go on. One day we'll face it. Ansible anyhow is there in our syllabus. It's generalizing again. So we'll naturally see that. And also I would suggest, by the way, generally, like, you have any out of thinking that, if you have any, you got any question that is well and good, by the way, that means you're thinking. Okay. So you got some question, by the way. So where sometimes you feel like, I mean, now taking this particular point as into practice. Now, let's say you're starting this particular point into practice. What I would suggest is maintain the backlog. Try to maintain one good note. Okay, no, I'll try to mention a digital note. Don't go with the books and all. So books are helpful. Okay, I do a lot of booking. I mean, I do write a lot of in the book, by the way, but not for this practice. So generally, you try to maintain the task list somewhere. Open a Google Doc or somewhere. Start writing the list where you can search easily, by the way. Note searching and all is not possible, right? That's the only suggestion. So start making certain points, by the way. You have a question, you got a thought process, please do write it down. Okay, now over a period of time, so after 3.5 months, you'll get into a maturity, by the way. So you are just beginning, a lot of people, right? So you'll get some maturity, consciousness. Okay, you'll get some knowledge around it, the things like that. You start revisiting those points, or even you revisit every week once, maybe spend 5 minutes, you revisit those particular points and think about, is the point still valid? Okay, so do that particular exercise. Even I would suggest, so you have any question sometimes, now following this particular one, now you got a question about something about the future, please write it down. Don't again ignore that. That doesn't mean that you should ignore that. In the software industry also, generally we are working on, now we face a problem, we immediately go and try to create a backlog there. Okay, we'll deal with that one day. We got a thought, we'll deal with one day. Whether we need to deal it or not, also we'll deal on that day, by the way. So please start adopting these particular practices. You will learn the things. So you should have worry, but not thinking on the worry all the time. So you will go there eventually. So, and also, like, so too many things, don't bring it into the bucket at what time. Okay, it's very difficult to make the things. Okay, please focus on only the things which goes on, especially I mean, it's not again like, restricting every one of you, I'll not teach that and all. So it's again, I mean, how do you take it up? But what I'm trying to tell here is, okay, so follow this practice. It really helped me a lot, by the way, because I used to struggle a lot, like, so while making the automation and all, like, so I have this problem, I can't solve this, so I'm always thinking about 100% complete solution, but rather than completing, like, so like some pieces of the things, making it like, so piece by piece kind of a thing, right? So solve or add some functionality day by day, and you achieve there. So that was a kind of a mindset I was missing, and one senior has guided me very well on that aspect. So taught me about this particular statement. You should look at everything in this way in software, okay, and things like that. And probably I started applying maybe after a few months. I was really, so seeing the difference of implementing this particular practice. It's a very common English phrase that generally people follow as well. We'll see when we cross the bridge. When we actually been into the bridge, by the way, we'll see what is the problem there. Whether we can cross, we can't cross. Okay, we have to fly. Solution we do that time, by the way. Okay, so coming back, I think I hope I gave the context to everyone. So we will talk about it. Anything, if you got into mind, I would suggest you to write it down somewhere. Don't miss that. That is the only thing can help you, by the way. And you can revisit the things. And one day even you will surprise, by the way, oh, that day itself I thought about this. One day you will see that this is a new problem, by the way, but you would have thought about it in a couple of months of back itself. Okay, so that's how it is going to be. Coming back to the point, any questions on YAM command? Sorry, DNF command. Yes, Rafiq.
Hey, hi. Hi, Raghu. Can you please advise on the NGINX thing? Like, is it a web server or do we need this for this project?
No worry. DNF list. I just picked up one command, does not really matter. Sudo DNF list. I just count number each line as a package, by the way. If you count it, you get 27,000. Okay. Now you can't run behind what is this 27 packages, 1,000 packages. Now at this point of time, the context is any package name given. Okay, you need to install it. It's just a word, just look like a string only. Don't bother about what is Nginx, who is Nginx. Okay, yeah. Some package you are installing, that's it. Any other questions? All right. So the next one is going to be another important one, which is called as service management. Okay. So we used to, okay, we use our servers for running our services, by the way. What kind of a service we talked about? So, I mean, basically, like, what is the purpose, by the way? So here, that someone is actually going to access our server service, okay, with some sort of .com, he will try to access our servers, by the way, right? You're accessing google.com, right? So that means some service is being served by the server. Some service is being served by the server. And mostly it is you can say this is a web content, right? HTTP means it's all web content. It's going to be some sort of a web content we are actually serving it. We're actually serving some sort of a web content. So that means there is some service running. Now server is meant for running some services. And that's where service management is coming into picture. So you need to manage the services in the operating system. And ultimately for us, actually, it is very important one. Okay. If a developer is learning Linux, by the way, maybe for him, it is not at all a mandatory one. But since an engineer, we wanted to run the services. And for us is very important one. Okay, like a package management. So this is basically, so far the commands, whatever you have ran so far, everything in Linux, everything is a command. And service is something like, which runs in the background all the time. Now ps-ef if you give, so you see so many processes, this process may be running in the background. These are coming from some services. Those are running all the time, 24/7. Now, unlike, okay, the commands we are executing like ls command, cat command, dnf command, okay, some commands will run 24/7 in the system. Now, in order to run those 24/7 commands in the system, okay, if you can't run it on the prompt like this. If you run in the prompt like this, you close the session, that prompt is gone. Okay, you close the prompt, the process will also get killed, by the way. Okay, now it needs to run in the background because the commands which are running so far is called as foreground. Okay, now you need to run the commands within the background, and running the command also you need to organize in a way properly, and that is where the service. Okay, so this service management will come into picture. Now here there's a background command as well. Now for an example, now let's say sleep is there, sleep 100 is there. If I run it, I will get it on the terminal only. But if I give ampersand at the end, So I will push this command to the background. This is running in the background now. ps-ef pipe for sleep. You will see that, so sleep is running, no problem. But however, so like these commands, so how do you organize them in a better way? You need a common proper thing that you manage it. Okay, not like just go here and run like this ampersand and all. It's not a good practice, by the way. So there is in the OS, there is a exclusive concept to do this particular job, which is called as service management, which is also there in Windows also. Okay, Windows also you have service management. I'm not sure how much you might have seen the Windows, but Windows general normal desktop operating system also have service management. Okay, so this is a one. You can start the service, stop the service. Okay, some services like antivirus and all. So those get registered over here. They run in the background all the time. Okay, so that's how it is going to be. Now that's where if I wanted to list down all the services in my system, sudo systemctl list -units -t service. Now you can see this, there are many services, by the way, so which are some of them are active, or most of them are active, whatever it is seeing. Some of them are running, some of them are not running. Okay, so that is what it is telling. I can press Q to come out. So this is actually opening. You can just press up and down. You can press Q to come out actually. Q. I press Q so that this command. Even this is also not needed, just like we did a DNF list, by the way, we are doing systemctl list. Okay, most of the time that is not needed as well. And if you want to check out some package, okay, whether it is running or not running, for an example, Nginx as a software, so sudo dnf install Nginx. Nginx is some sort of a service, okay, or some sort of software that runs as a service even. Okay, now I can go for sudo systemctl status, like not Nginx. Now you can see this, it is telling that, so it is loaded, but it is inactive, by the way. Okay, now you can go and give start the service of Nginx. Now this service is started, status Nginx. Now you can see this, it's actually coming. So this status might show you, the prompt like this. You need to press Q to come out, Q to get the prompt back. Systemctl start Nginx, systemctl status Nginx. After that, now it is showing that it is active running. Earlier, it is just inactive. That's it. Now the same way, it's a very simple wording, only start to start, stop to stop. And again, you go back and check the status. Again, it is inactive. Right. And also to stop a service, it is, and sometimes you need to do a restart. You do a restart as well. Now assume this machine reboot, by the way, and you want to start this service automatically. So then, okay, so you can enable the service. Now at this, here you see this service is disabled. Okay, so then disable and then, enable Nginx, so that if the server is starting automatically, you want to start the service, then you have to make it enable. If you make it enable, okay, by using systemctl enable Nginx, this is enabled. That means the server will start at the time of reboot automatically. All right. So, and if you kind of don't want it, then you can use disable. So these are the quite common options that we'll use with the systemctl. Okay, so just concluding, systemctl, okay, start mostly, okay, so and systemctl stop. Sometimes you need to do a restart. Systemctl enable you'll do, and most of the time you'll not do a disable at all. Okay, but you have a disable option. That means you'll always try to start the service at the time of reboot itself. Okay, so any reason that machine got rebooted, some maintenance happened, machine need rebooted, you rebooted it. All the services should start automatically. Why you need to go and start it manually, right? So that's where enable is very important. And apart from this, you can also add your own services as well, which we'll see it in the project by the way. Add own services. Okay, so how to create your own service? Now you are actually going to deal with some apps installing and all. You need to deal with your own. You need to deal with your own services. Okay, you need to add some services. How do you deal with that? We'll see that. Okay. So that's about something about the systemctl. Any questions? Anyone have any question, please unmute and talk. Maybe if you are finding hard to raise a hand, you can unmute and talk.
I just have a quick question. What is the difference between services and processes in that case?
Yeah. So process is nothing but which is actually running in the system, by the way, right? So it's all process. Now, who started the process? It's a user process. It's basically you start categorizing. Everything is a process end of the day. Now, if a user has started the process, you can consider that as a user process. Maybe for a service, by the way, like, so I mean, I'm executing some ls command for my purpose. But whereas you start Nginx service to serve something for the customer, it's a service. You're just tagging that particular kind of a process as a service, by the way. Okay. So server is meant for servicing. What is the meaning of server? Server is to serve something. Okay. What it offers? It offers a service. Okay. So that's where it's a very Englishing only. Like there's no tech here thing here. At least I would say like the simple English thing. Okay. So server is going to serve the things as service, and that's where we're calling it as service. And this is a server. It's not only going to do one service, it can do n number of services. That's where the service management is coming into picture. Clear?
Thank you.
Anyone? Any other questions?
So, hi Raghu.
Yeah.
So all this system control, we understand that we need sudo because these are super user privilege items. However, who will be performing this activity? Is it a root user or is it entitled user? How do we classify those?
It is easy to use, right? You logged in with your username.
Okay, so do we have privileges to execute also? Thank you.
Yeah.
Raghu?
Yeah.
So there is a dot service file I can see that a symbolic link, and then there is a nginx dot service file, right? So that file has to be created by us, or we get
That's
it
what I
from.
mentioned. When you actually go with the project, by the way, we'll talk about adding our own services. Okay. So, and
Okay.
also like since you, I mean, so simple answer is add our own services. That means we have to add our own services. Now again, Linux is kind of a command line operating system where you will not have, okay, like a UI kind of a thing, things like that, right? So that means like Windows, if you want to add a service, again, you open services in the UI, you can add it, but here it is not. Either it has to be a command or it has to be a file. Even though you run the command, most of the things, end of the day, it deals with the files. And let me keep everything, Linux, everything is a file. It's a very important statement. In Linux, everything is a file, by the way. Okay, there are 7 types of files, in fact. Okay, if you want to deep dive as well. So yeah. Now this service is also a file end of the day. If I say that, add our own service, that means someday, somewhere, we have to go and add a file to telling to the systemctl that, hey, I am adding a new service to you. That's how it is going to. Clear?
Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
See?
Oh, these are all available at the lab, right, Raghu? You said till 10 p.m. East IST, so which will be like 7:30 it closes Eastern time.
That lab thing is only when you have a question. If you have a question,
Okay,
yeah,
I see. Okay,
you can practice any point of time after the session. No worries.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Raghu, one follow-up question.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for Linux, we do this cron tab scheduling, right? Is the service different? Because that also allows us to run some script at particular interval. Service is different from that, or is it doing something similar?
No, cron job means a job is tend to completion, right? General meaning. A
Yeah,
job means it is tend to completing, right?
right.
So that means cron job means you are going to run some process which tends to complete, but you want to run it at certain point of time. Okay, so for that
Right.
you use a cron.
Yeah, it's like a scheduling. So
Simple scheduler, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so service is like it's always going to run in the background. That's what it is.
Service means yes, runs 24/7. That process runs 24/7 to serve the customers.
Okay, and does it? One more question is that in the cloud, if I have a service, does it mean that it will always block some thread for itself, or how does that part work?
No, I did not got it.
So when we start a service, does that mean that that service will kind of reserve a thread and some CPU for itself
Yeah, of course.
for the whole time it runs? Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, cool. So the next one which we have here is user management. Now, user management generally does not fall under your section, but however, in certain organizations, it may be needed as well. When I say when it is needed, by the way, so we're not talking about an IT person, like an IT person. You join an organization, who gives you a username and password, who gives you a laptop? That's all central IT or someone, right? So IT service, but you are not into IT job, by the way. Okay. So that's where the user management will not generally fall into your things, but still we need a user management. Why we need to do is we use our servers to run the web applications, right? So that means we are going to so that means we are going to serve something. So all the things we're talking about as pointing to this only. So this server is actually accessed over web by some user. Over web, I mentioned the Internet Explorer symbol. So just to understand that over the web, we are actually accessing that particular server. Now, whenever this particular, web applications are running, when these web applications are running, okay, so then that needs, it's a process in the system, right? A service is running, it's a process in the system. And that process is going to be, that process should be running as a, normal user rather than a root user, as per security best practices. Now, any process you run should have a user associated to that. Okay, mostly, unless until, there is no unless until, by the way, for you at least. So now PS-EF, you will see many processes, by the way, as a root user, but don't bother about them. Those are because most of them are two, yesterday, like we were talking about. Some of them are very one, by the way, as well. So some very basic process, which need to be run as a root user will be run as root user, but many process you will see other users, by the way. Okay. And as a best practice as well, okay, you need to run the things as a normal user. Now things are meant to run as a normal user, but if you are running with your own user, assume, I mean, my name is Raghu, I log into the system as Raghu, and if I'm running the service as Raghu user, tomorrow I leave the organization, my central accounts is going to disable my user. Now all the servers where I'm running the process will get affected. Correct? So that should not be the case. That means what do we need to have is we need to have a user for running our application, and those are not the human beings, those are functional users, we call it up. Okay, in the user management, by the way, those are functional users. Like in the general, in the organizations, like, you know, who follows the full process generally as a security practices, they even create these functional users also in the common place, which is single sign-on. They'll create these users also in the single sign-on. Okay, but however, some organizations, what they will do is, okay, functional users will not keep it in the centralized place. You create your own functional user in the systems, okay, for running your process. Now, coming from that background, if I really go with the full company process, I would ask to create a functional user in the central only. I'll not take the bothering of creating my local user. But since this is a lab, okay, we can't simulate that IT thing here. Okay, we can do that, but it comes with a cost, by the way. So that's where we just assume, okay, and we'll move on. That's it. All right. So, but keep it in mind, in company, you're going to have a functional users for running the functions, right? Functions of our job, by the way, like for our program, the kind of a thing. When I say program, like not an OS program, general program, right? So a project program kind of thing. Okay, to run these particular things, by the way, we need to run certain things in the server, and that user also has to be normal user. It shouldn't be root user. It should never be a root user. Okay, it's a highly compliant issue if you run other things as a root user. If tomorrow the system is compromised by any reason, that means whoever gains the access is a complete administration access. Okay, at least if you don't do that, one step you're actually saving, by the way. All right. So that is how it is going to be. So in that particular perspective, okay, you always need to run the things as a normal user only. All right. And in general, in the organizations, by the way, so what all the security best practices we follow is actually come from CIS benchmark. CIS benchmark is the, so which is widely used, by the way, benchmark for the security. How can I say my server is secure? You have to do a CIS benchmarking, okay, and you do a CIS scan and determine whether the machine is good or bad. We'll do this exercise later. We have something in our, an upcoming session someday on the security class. Okay, so CIS benchmarking will be there, and we determine the machines are good or bad or things like that. Okay, now that is how it is going to be. Now, okay. That's how, okay, so all the services need to be run as a normal user, and I wanted to add a user because I want to run an application, and that's where sudo user add, user add. Let's say I'm adding a user called as sample. If the project name is like, let's say, if the project name is something like some fancy word, I can pick it up. So like, let's say the project name is Iron Man, just as an example. Now I'll create some username which is more related to, sort of the project name. The functional users are mostly, okay, near to the functional requirement. Okay, so my project name is Iron Man. I'll create an Iron Man. Okay, so now for an example, okay, so I mean, you go for a, like, let's say, that's fine. So anything related to the project name. Now I'm going to bring some services which are, okay, widely used, by the way, and let's see their names, what they are using. What is the software they are running? What is the software name? What is the user they are running? Okay, you will relate the things. So you will understand it. And also, if you want to see whether the user is there in the system or not, so ID command will help you. ID space sample will help you, so that this user is associated to this user ID, and he also belongs to one group. So that group name is this. Okay, so that's fine. So this is the username, user ID he belonged to, and the user also will create one group as well, a self group, by the way. So to that group, that user will be added. Now I'm going to bring in certain softwares. So just let's run this. This will just go and, so don't worry about that, what is doing. So curl is getting on URL. pipe sudo bash means that's a script actually it is running. What is the script, how to run and all, you will see it later. Don't worry at this point of time. I'm installing some 3 common well-known software. So which is HTTPD, which is one web server, Tomcat, which is some application server, MariaDB is one database, by the way. Okay. Now even don't bother about what are those also. But whereas PS-EF, if you give, okay, so those softwares will be running. Now you can see this MariaDB, which is nothing but a MySQL software, is actually running with MySQL. Username is MySQL. Though the name is MariaDB, is actually MySQL. Okay. So now you can see this. The Tomcat is running with a Tomcat user. Okay. And HTTPD is running with Apache user. Okay. They're coming with, so 3 different softwares you installed. Everyone is coming with their own user only. They're not running with a root user. They're not running with a root user. So that's how, okay. That's what I would say, like, it's a very common practice. And I'm just proving that, so just by showing some softwares, that's fine. So this is what it is. All right. So that's about something about the user management. Like let's iterate the things in the generally in the organizations, whoever follows the single sign-on completely, by the way, these functional users also will be created there. Okay. And you will use them. And however, okay, in certain organization where you don't have the functional users creating central, you need to create on your servers, or even in the lab, by the way, we don't have that central thing. That's where we are creating the things on user. Okay. So, and if we want to run the process, okay, now this relates to the previous service management as well. In the service management, we always need to run those particular services as, you need to ensure that particular services are run as non-root user only. You should not run it as a root user. The service, you have to clearly write it down, which user that process should run. You're going to tell a particular non-user, non-root user. So that's how the user management is coming into picture. All right. Any questions? I think you people are making my life easy. Not asking any questions.
More will come when we practice run.
Yeah, it will. That's true. All right. If concept wise we are clear, then good. Let's move on and let's talk about the last one. Okay. So we'll talk about it and we'll close for today. Now, whenever you create any file, you're going to get some permission. So touch sample, you create any file, you're going to get a sample file, but you also get a ownership and a group ownership. So now this ID EC2-user, he belonged to EC2 user, and also he belonged to EC2 user group. By the way, that's where you're getting the username. Whoever the user has created this file, his username and his group is actually giving. Now, sometimes we need to transfer the ownership. Let's say I created some files, but I wanted to transfer this with Ironman user because it's Ironman project. Then what do I do? So I'm going to go with, okay, so sudo change the ownership. Change the ownership, by the way. So to whom? Change the ownership to Ironman. Okay, Ironman, and the file name. So it's a file name. Now ls-lr sample. Now this file name is actually owned by Ironman. Okay. Now the group is EC2 user group is that means the group of people which is inside this particular group can deal with this particular file. They are the group owner. Now that also you can modify sudo chgrp change group. Okay. change group the file which is to, like, let's say there is some default group is there in the system which is called as some bin group or something like that, and you give sample. Okay, now ls-l, by the way, and you deal with that. So we just need to ensure we give a proper permissions. Okay, maybe I can take you to the project, by the way. So I mean, this is my project code. Like, further also we will come here, and you might be in a position to, or basically, like, one day you'll start seeing this code and writing this kind of a code, by the way. Okay, now in this particular code, what we are doing is, somewhere I'll tell you, maybe, like, so if you go with the app prerequisites, now what we are doing is we are trying to download some software. Okay, now downloading that software, after downloading the software and extracting the software, what we need to do is we need to set up the permissions. We need to set up the permissions running with a proper app user. We're going to set the content, set the content to that particular app user. Okay, so because you need to do that. You need to do that because, all the content also should be with that particular user if you need to manage it, right? So you need to run the service and all, it is must and should. So that's where, so generally on the Linux side, command line, okay, later it will go with all automation and all, nothing too much bother. But here at this point of time, you always need to set up the things. Okay, now, however, you wanted to change the owner and group at once, this sudo chown command itself will help you. I'll give EC2 hyphen, or maybe sample user is there, sample : sample, and the file is sample. Okay, here sample is a username, sample is a group, and sample is a file. Okay, if that is confusing, chown EC2 hyphen user : EC2 hyphen user, and the file name is sample, and that file name come back with EC2 user, EC2 user. So rather than changing the ownership one time, group on another time, okay, so you can change both the things in one shot. chown user : group, and that particular file name. You'll be done. Now, giving the ownership, what they will do, by the way, that is the first section here. Okay, the first character over here is going to determine ls-l output. The first character determines what type of file it is. I just told, right, there are 7 type of files. Okay, so 7 type of files. Those type of file is determined by using this. Hyphen means it's a normal file, a text file kind of a thing. Okay, as a normal file. But whereas the remaining next 9 characters are very important, by the way. Okay, so this one. Now, these are three pieces, by the way. Okay, now who is the owner, by the way? Okay, he is called as user. The first section is what user can do. Who is owning that file? That file is owned by EC2 user. What that user will do? And the next one is group. What this group people will do? Not only this user, this group, this is an operating system, have other users and other groups. That's where other, what they can do. Now, what they can do, it's actually basically R for read, W for write, that means edit the content, X means execute the content. Okay, these are the 3 permissions. Okay, now user stands for U. Okay, so group stands for G, and other stands for O. Now, if I wanted to add some permission, read some permission, okay, then what I need to do is I would be going with the chmod command. Okay, so UGO plus or minus RWX is what you need to do, plus or minus. Okay, that means I need to give, okay, chmod UGO minus RWX sample. That means minus means you're removing the permission. To the sample user, I'm removing all the permissions. No one have any permissions. That means if I try to cat this file, I'll get a permission denied. I don't have a permission. What is the permission I should have? Read permission. Cat is going to do what? Read the file. Okay, you don't have a read permission. Okay, that's where you will lose it. So that's where to whom you want to set the permission is what this is basically. So first section is RWX is actually for owner. Next RWX is actually what the group people can do. Now what others can do. Okay, so this is what it is. Now sudo chmod. So since this is my file, I am owning it. Maybe sudo is not needed. In fact, if it is some other file, some other owner's file, you have to use sudo. So chmod, now ugo plus rwx or plus r maybe. Plus r means you are giving only readable permission. Now ls-l for all you are giving readable permission. Now cat sample, it's empty file, you don't see any content. So that is where to deal with the permission management. So we are going to deal with this. So to whom give the permission and all. Maybe chmod, you may not use it wide by the way, but chown, okay, you need to download the files and all for the user to set up, I mean, for not user, for application to set up by the way. So now you need to convert all those files into the appropriate username of the application by the way, functional user. Okay, so this is how it is. And that's all. That's all basically about the permission management. Maybe a little bit overwhelming at this point of time, but you'll understand slowly while you gain the context. Yeah, that's all about something what I wanted to talk in today's session. Any questions?
Hi Raghu, the last command you mentioned, that's chamod, right? Chamod Yugo. The RWX, I got the means, right? Read, write, and execute mode. What is chamod Yugo? That is not going to understand.
First, let me correct one thing. It's not chamod. Something don't come with the language. Change mod. Okay, change mod. What your
Okay.
mod is permission. So that's where we call it as ch mod.
Okay.
Not reading that way. The same way, ch own means change the ownership.
Change ownership, yeah. That's
Okay.
understood.
Change mod means mods basically is permissions we call it up. So that's why chmod is coming. Now come to your question. Sorry, I completely overheard.
Okay, and what is that Yugo?
What is that? Sorry?
Yugo.
It's not Yugo. It's a user. It's a group.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Other.
Understood. Okay.
UG.
Sorry. Now got it.
Anyone? Any other questions?
Hey, Raghu.
Yeah.
You instead of UGO, we can simply say, if you want to make changes for a specific user or group or others, we can mention just that, right? Plus or minus.
Right. Maybe I did not give the example. Now you see this, by the way. Only others only I was giving RWX permission. So
Yeah.
others only got RWX.
Sorry. Thank you. No, thank you. As a follow-up question, Raghu, can you also help us to explain about the find command in Unix? I think that is also being used in my office.
Depends by the, like I was talking about, there are many commands which are there, which may fall on the requirement perspective. Now if you have any specific question, you raise it.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's very simple. If I want to find the files which is in the system, now find is the command. Now where I want to find, like slash, but by the way, if I give find enter, now that means it will give me what all the possible files in the system, which are every file in the system. But that is not the criteria. Now my criteria is something else, let's say. Now I want to find out a file with a name of sample. Okay. Its name is sample. Now enter. Now you get all the file names. Okay. Whichever it is sample, by the way. Of course, you are getting permission denied because you don't have access. Now you want to gain the access to the whole system. Sudo find -name sample. Now you got it. What all the files which are there in which location. That's it. You're done.
Thanks, Raghu.
Yeah. Anyone? Any other questions?
Raghu?
Yeah.
Just these are EC2 machines, right?
Correct.
So when we provision, I think we will cover this later in the course, but just to clear my thought, right? So there will be like some provisioning script, right, to provision these machines?
Yeah, Terraform is in our syllabus.
Terraform, yeah. Okay, and we can give these commands inside Terraform? So this create user and
Yeah, you want.
okay. Okay.
You will see anyhow. Naturally, you will gain the context.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because like for example, in our company, when we see the machine, those machines already have these things in place. So somebody
Correct.
must be already doing it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? If no one have any questions, feel free to drop. If anyone have any questions, couple of minutes we can spend.
Hi Raghu, right now, see, once we create the instant, right? And then we are copying that, the public ID, and then we are preparing the EC2 user in that color coder, right? In Linux. So always we will do this kind of things, always.
We are not using killer coder after creating EC2 box. This is my macOS terminal actually. I'm not using killer coder. Killer coder is only to read the text.
Okay.
The document is there, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, I was not showing that. Stop sharing the screen. Okay. So let me. Meeting ended. No, wait.
And Raghu, one more thing, you also mentioned that when a user say he leaves the company, so that user gets deleted from the central user management, right? And
Yeah.
that also takes effect in all the boxes, or okay. And that also gets controlled by
IT.
okay.
When you are leaving the organization means HR and IT will settle the things generally, right? Any org you take.
Correct.
So your account will get deactivated or deleted, depends. And that's where, so all the systems will get affected. Simple.
Okay, so say for example, that user was part of a group, so he will automatically get removed from that group.
Those are all, those are tools actually. Single sign-ons are tools. Microsoft Active Directory, Oracle IAM, you have.
Okay.
Maybe Google SAML you have. These are all common things. You just remove that and ultimately, you delete a user means all the associated places will get affected automatically. These are all well-known tools, by the way.
Yeah. So say for example, we are using Microsoft, so that means the Active Directory is integrated with AWS, or how does that part work?
Yeah.
Okay. And
even you also, like for an example, AWS also, how are you logging to Amazon console? I have given you a different console, right?
yes.
Okay. So, but I am not using that actually. I am having my single sign-on, by the way. Okay. After doing that, I'll be having multiple accounts. Like let's say in an organization, you may not deal with one account only. You'll be dealing with multiple accounts of AWS. That we talk about landing zone concept is there. We talk about that. This also we'll talk about that time. Okay. So everything may not be look same as like maybe today what you are in the shape, by the way. Things will learning landscape will change many times.
Okay.
Yeah. So the simple answer is yes. Even AWS logins also, even AWS portal access will stop. All the server access will stop. And every other application which is integrated with AD is simply stopped.
So will you cover that part?
No. That's
little bit?
That's IT job.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
That's IAM. There are jobs of IAM, by that. Identity access management jobs will be there. That's a separate role altogether, falls under IT. It's not our job.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, if I am owning some application, how, and then those users are using my application, right? So when that user leaves, how does that impact the users and groups on my boxes that I manage, right? So that's what the question was.
That's what I mentioned. Na? So we are going to create functional users.
Okay.
We are not running the user with your username, right? So we'll create a functional user like Iron Man. I mentioned the project name is Iron Man.
Mhm.
Okay. So your company, your project will have some name, right?
Yes.
So that name will create a functional user. Now, even though you leave the organization, functional user still be there.
All right. All right.
And usually functional users will not have certain things, by the way. So there are sections you should choose, by the way. That means he should have inbox, he should have a password authentication. The password authentications and all will not be there functional users. Just a functional user running some process with for some requirement. So that's it. One username will be there. That's it. Any other questions? All right, then all good. So let's meet in tomorrow. And so we'll talk about some other concepts, by the way. So mostly networking concept, and we'll proceed from there. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Good day. Good day.